Ladies and gentlemen, hailing from Cleveland, Ohio, I give you BVO.
Oh, we boxing? Yeah, we boxing. I need that belt like it ain't no other option. So we punching and weaving and blocking. Defeat ain't an option. Let them know, shoot a video, put it on BVO. Let them know, every time I punch, it's a heavy blow. BVO, bound to hit like bricks cause it was set in stone. Let them know, I ain't getting body, but I'ma hit this flow. Yeah, way more than a show, this is BVO.
You got B3 Picks here at it again. Proud to announce a brand new partnership with BVO Sports TV and B3BoxingPicks.com. Let's go green. At B3BoxingPicks.com, we provide pre-fight boxing picks of the week, but also live boxing betting options so we can make money pre-fight or during the fight betting on the beautiful sport of boxing. Join now, only $10 a week or $25 a month by visiting B3BoxingPicks.com for the membership. Also follow me on all socials at B3BoxingPicks. Follow my YouTube, Not Another Boxing channel, presented by B3 Picks. And shout out to the People's Network, the one and only Sports Talk Network. Let's go green.
On behalf of BVO Boxing TV, we would like to thank our sponsor, Raycon. Don't forget to grab your Raycon Everyday Earbuds, the perfect bass model for premium sound, with active noise cancellation to block out distractions and transparency mode to keep you aware of your surroundings. They're ideal for your everyday needs. Just visit RayconGlobal.com. That's RayconGlobal.com and elevate your listening experience.
Yo, what's up? It's your boy BVO Sports TV. We in the house. Sorry, guys, you only got to pay some bills to YouTube act right, so we got to pay some bills. But we got one of my favorite guys on here, man, Mr. Tim Witherspoon Jr. What's going on, champ? How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How you guys doing?
Good, man. So we got to get right into this, man.
Sure.
So what does it feel like, man, seeing your son decide to take on a sport that you and your father love, boxing?
It's the same thing when people ask me, who my dad is and everything. It's like, it's what we do. So I don't really look at it as like anything different. Well, I'm number 4, the 4th professional fighter in our family. Then we got Chaz Witherspoon, who you might have heard of. He's number 5.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the family business. It's like, if he's going to do this, let's just do it. We've done it many times before. So, it's just another day. Now, what I do feel great joy as a father with him is, you always want your child to do better than you. Or at least I feel like you should. So for me, I left school in 11th grade to basically do what I'm doing now, which is a good thing. That doesn't work out for everybody. But my son will be graduating high school next month, and he will be going into the Carpenters Union. So along with boxing, we have a good foundation for him to be successful at life. So that is really what I'm really proud of. Because we all know that this boxing game is crazy and anything can happen. He can be world champion, or he could be forgotten about, or he could be world champion and then forgotten about, So the fact that we are sending him to school to get a trade and he's finishing high school is something that I'm proud of. It's something that I did go back and get my diploma, but I left school in 11th grade. So just for us to get to this milestone in our life, that's something that I'm real proud of.
Speaking of that, man, one thing we got to talk about, Do you ever plan on training your son? Because we all know about your background with now you owning a gym. Do you see yourself training him? You know, being a
Yeah,
father
well,
son figure?
yeah. I mean, I am his trainer. You know, we got four fights under our belt. Um, and my dad, you know, he was there helping us, and you know, we just I don't right now. We could bring some other people on. You know, I'm still dad, but at the end of the day, he feels like, you know, most of the knowledge that he can receive, the best knowledge, is right here in his own house. So, you know, we that's what we do. But we're not, you know, naive to think that our way is the only way. So, I'm not, you know, I'm not totally going to rule out that we wouldn't bring somebody else in and add on to, you know, what I'm doing and what my dad is doing with them.
Yeah, because I always message the son and say, man, whatever you do, fight the Mexican style so we can make some money. I always tell him that, you know, because that's real boxing, man. But let me ask you this before we go any further. What do you
Sure.
think about this young phenom that just came out? Young guy, man, just got started. Emiliano Vargas, looking like the best fighter we've seen in probably 30 years. What do you think about this young guy?
So I am not even going to lie to you. I haven't. I'm running a campaign right now,
Yeah.
for school board. I'm also running a gym. I'm starting my own promotional company. I just got Witherspoon events off the ground.
Hmm.
Um, by the time the fights come on the weekend, if I'm not still working, I'm kind of trying to take my mind off of all the work that I do. My workload is kind of large right now. Um, so most of my knowledge on boxing from the recent months have been from watching the recaps, but I haven't gotten a chance.
No did it. I said no did it. I say no.
I didn't mean to hit that one. My bad. I thought you
I
said
was
something.
just saying I haven't most of my knowledge from the fights happened from, you know, watching the recaps, but I haven't had a chance to watch the recap on him.
So speaking of that, and then I'm gonna bring my man Dub Rice out in. He's from Middle Georgia. We call him Varnell Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I want to ask you this, man. When you know being a part of Philadelphia, the
Mm-hmm.
kind of violence that we see there, um, is really something you haven't seen since the early '90s. Does it kind of trouble you to see how young men are actually so violent and unaliving each other, especially in North Philly? It's been like an absolute like travesty.
Yeah. For me, especially now going into politics and things like that, is much deeper than that. Also, you got to understand, my father made a couple of dollars, so he was able to move me to the suburbs. So I'm able to see, being the only family member that got that opportunity, how my other family members had to live in the city. I kind of got the best of both worlds going on. Um, and there's a lot of injustice going on, um, not just uh, not just you know, with police officers and things like that. I'm talking about things like environmental injustice. You know, you got a lot of people in the inner city that they don't have trees on their street. Um, they get a pothole, they try to call to get that pothole fixed. It's not, no one's coming to ever fix it. You know, you have food deserts. You got the only thing you got in these neighborhoods are corner stores, which are the most poor nutritionist food that you can feed a human. Um, and when you have these types of environmental injustices, it turns into kids not feeling loved by their own environment. It turns out to them not being able to trust in a system that doesn't give them the opportunities that they see other people in their environments receiving. So, do we have to control the violence when it comes to us? Yes, we do. But I learned this African proverb at this environmental justice summit in Philadelphia that I just went to, and it goes, "A child that does not feel the warmth of his community will burn it down just to feel the warmth. And we can see that with our own eyes.
Hmm.
We need justice environmentally. We need to have their surroundings feel welcoming. We need rec centers. We need police officers to not only be involved with these kids when they're in trouble, but before they get in trouble. We need things like that, programs. We cannot expect for a kid to wake up every day looking at the drugs, walking, navigating in North Philly. They have to navigate through zombies to get to the public bus. These are children. We have adults, nurses, people that have to navigate through those environments. So if we want to fix some of these, because we're not inherently, we're not violent people. If we were violent people, we would have been took over this country or cities and all that. Our environments need to be dealt with, and there's a lot of injustice there. And if we don't fix that, then it's never going to be fixed. You can throw as much money at welfare as you want. You can do that. You can throw as much money at public housing as you want. If you don't go into these, and there's a lot of politicians that just don't, they want to go into those neighborhoods when they need the votes, but they don't go into those neighborhoods to just find solutions for those problems. But if somebody that is in the suburbs where I grew up at, there, don't get me wrong, there's potholes there, but most likely where I grew up, the homeowners association would not allow that to happen.
For sure. Go ahead. We got my man Dub right side from Middle Georgia. Go ahead, Dub. I think Dub might have fell down the
No,
stairs.
my bad. I
Oh,
had both. I was double muted out here. My bad.
oh,
So, man, shout out to my brother Tim. Man, welcome to the show. You just brought something up, and I think you have. You said you got you're running a campaign right now for the school board, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I believe your election is going to be May 20th.
Yep, next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. Next Tuesday. How you feel that you're doing? And have you been receiving support from the community?
Oh man, you guys joked a lot about the gospel music, having to play that and things like that, but it's really a spiritual journey for me to be exactly where I'm supposed to be at the right time today. Every fight that I ever had, every podcast that I ever done, every community service thing that I did at the gym is all paying off right now. Everything is just connected from when I went to school myself, dropping out. I'm going to be. Let me just say something real quick. I if inshallah, if I'm voted in to the school board, I will be the first African American male in this school district to be elected to it. Not only that, I told you guys in the beginning of the podcast, I'm a high school dropout. I will be the first high school dropout to be elected to the school board. And it's made possible because of everything that I've been through to this point to get to me right here where I'm at. I'm going and knocking on doors myself, and I'm not even realizing how many people already know who I am because of what I've done or who my father is. Every other door, they know me before I even say anything. So I'm feeling real confident about this election. Um, I'm part of the Democratic Party. I'm not really right now in my life, I'm not really caring about being a part of one party or another, a gang or anything like that, because I'm tired of people pointing fingers when we need to find solutions. And I told you guys, these people, our people, our cousins, our friends that are in these environments, don't want to hear people pointing fingers at each other saying that it's your job to get it done or it's your job to get it done. They want us to come together and find solutions. And that's what it's really about. I'm tired of people playing this red versus blue thing. Is the reason why we are where we're at right now. If somebody needs help, I know. I told these people. I said, "Yo, if we gonna be playing this kind of game, I'll go back to my business and I'll help out the community through my business. I don't need to be here arguing with people. We don't got to do that." And that's what got me this far into the school board race. But we need people to really want to find solutions, and that's not happening. But that's what I'm coming for. That's what people are hoping for. And I'm confident that we can get it done.
Is there any way that we can go out and support your? I know it's next week, but any way we can go out
You
and support
already,
what you got going?
you already doing it by having me on your show. I'm sure you're going to be posting some clips and editing this out. Just us being us, you asking me real questions, me answering real questions. You guys are already doing your job. I appreciate you.
Hey, I will tell you, I've never been a part of the school. I've been on the PTA a few times, you know what I'm saying? But I think it's huge what you're doing, especially as a black man. We need more leaders in the community to step up and really put their foot down so we can help some of these kids in these different situations that you brought up earlier. I just want to ask, what's your vision or your goal for if you win? What's your vision or goal for that position that you'll be that position of leadership you'll be in?
First and foremost, my job is to allow everyone to know that I am there for them. I'm not playing any identity games. If you have a question, a problem, you can come talk to me. That's first and foremost. Secondly, it's important for me to single out these kids, these young men and women who never get a chance to see somebody who looks like me in a position of power. Even though I'm one vote of 9 other people, I'm going to be the only one that might look like them. So that is important. On the other hand, it is important for other kids that don't look like me to see somebody like me making decisions, doing things in power. I am not just on the school board, I'm going on there as a role model. I'm on there so that another kid can believe that he can be the second African American male on the Bristol Borough School Board. That is my purpose for all this. We could talk about keeping taxes down. We could talk about saving the drama program. We could talk about the teachers' budget all we want, but it's up to us, our generation, the 50-year-olds, the 40-year-olds, even the 30-year-olds, to tell these young kids the way, because the kids are not the future. It's us that already know what to do. It's us that already have been through it. We are the ones that guide them to get to where we are. They don't know anything. They don't know anything. It's up to us to be role models. So that is what I'm going in here for. I'm starting with them. Hopefully I can get a couple of these adults after that to fall in line and understand that this thing is much greater than us. It's much bigger. We got to leave something for our kids. We got to leave our children in a better world than we put them and then we brought them into. But that's not what the thought is on a lot of these platforms. You see people arguing back and forth about this person's right. It's time to stop it, yo. These kids depend on us. You want to know how to stop gun violence in the inner city? You get 50 more of me to start going around there and start making solutions. So that's really what my vision is for the school board, to really let people see that African American males can have a voice. We can make good decisions. We're positive people, and that's what I'm going to represent.
I ain't mad at it. I ain't mad at it.
That's a good there.
Oh,
Good
go
there.
ahead. Go ahead.
I'll say this, man. The only thing that kind of worries me, man, 'cause one person, and in the Quran it talked about not overloading that camel, and I
Hmm.
just, I just would hate for you to put too much on that camel, man, because that's what happens a lot of times when you love something. But I ask you this, man, because you spoke about your faith. What is God put into you that you want to put into the atmosphere?
Well, God has told me what my purpose in life is. You know, that, he told me that I'm here to bring everybody together. He said, Tim, this is what you already been doing. You already been here in your gym. You already got cops working with criminals inside your gym, and not the way that they normally work with each other. I got them working with each other, holding the pads and talking to each other. You know, I have black people holding the pads for white people. I have women holding the pads for men. And we're all a family in there. I've been doing it my whole life. My own family is a mixture. My first son is half Cambodian. You know, my other children are white. Mixed race. Let's say mixed race. I don't like to say just white. Um, but and my wife is from Chicago. So every aspect of my life is to bring people that might not understand that we have more in common than we don't together. And that's the reason why God, even in my when I was 1 year old, said, Tim, I'm going to move you from Philly into the suburbs. You are the one that gets the opportunity to experience this, so you can go back to the city and see what's going on, so you can actually be the one to go back there and try to help out. Because there's kids in the city that don't know what grass look like. It's kids in the city that don't know what a school, what a bowling team is, or a tennis team like I had, But I got a chance to see my cousins and go to school, and the curriculum that they had being a little bit different than mine, and the need for me in this world to bring what I've learned from my upbringing back there, and also vice versa, the need to bridge the gap from back there to where I'm from. We're not that much different. And God told me that that's what I'm here on earth to do.
So
That's
let me
what's up.
ask you this, man. What compels you to take your shahada, man?
So I didn't take my shahada. I was born Muslim. My father was Muslim. So
Mm-hmm.
when I was born, my name was Jabaruddin. Um, but if I want to talk about spirituality, uh, some things that have changed in my life. And I say God told me what my purpose is. He also told me that I'm everything. He told me that He created everything, and so am I. So I should learn from everything, and that's also what He said. He said we're here to learn lessons from every aspect of life, not to push it away. So that's what I'm doing. Everything, even the negative. Because when you learn lessons from that negative, you turn it into a positive. And these are things that I'm learning spiritually along the way. So you asked me about my shahada. No, I'm born Muslim,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I believe in the higher power, and I believe that our higher power created everything. So
Go ahead, Doug.
therefore, I am.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, Prize. Let Prize jump in there.
Oh,
All
go ahead, Pryor.
right.
Go ahead,
No,
Pryor.
no, no. I noticed that you said that your son's going to be joining the Carpenters Union. Shout out to Local 158. I'm also a union worker. I'm Local 542. How important is it for the people that look like us? How important is it us to pick up a trade? Because I think that's very important for us.
It is very important, and it was one of the reasons why I suggested electricians first, because
Yeah, they make the
I,
good money. They get the good money. Electricians get the good money.
yeah, but there's not many electricians that look like us.
I
So,
was just on a job with foot. It was not one. And not same thing with mine. Mine, like I was the only one that
right.
looked like me as an operating engineer. But
So that's one reason why I wanted him to go into it. It just so happens that we were blessed that he's going to get paid to be an apprentice, go to
hmm
carpenter. school. It was going to cost me money to send him to be an electrician.
Mhm.
I still gave him the option. He's the one who chose which way he was going to go. So again, God looked out for me in that way where I just let it happen and he brought it to us. And now my son is going to be the first carpenter, the first Witherspoon carpenter.
Yeah, that's nice. I mean, it's a lot of work coming up in the city. I work in Philly most of my life. Um, it's a lot of work coming up for him to be an apprentice. I think y'all program is 5 years.
Yeah.
When he comes out of there, man, they make good money too. We all do, but I feel like it's better for him to go to the carpenters. He have a better chance because that when he get with them electricians, because they make so much, it get real funny acting, and that's
Mm,
from 22 years of construction experience in the city.
right. Well, look, as long as he get off my couch eventually.
Yeah, but trust me,
Eh,
he as an apprentice, he ain't gonna have he gonna have too much to do because they gotta have certain amount of hours for this. They
like
gotta have stuff, So trust me, that's not gonna happen.
no, I mean eventually. He ain't
Yeah, for
got
sure.
he ain't got to go, now, but
Right,
I
right,
want
right.
to be, self sufficient.
For sure.
Well, let me ask you this, man, and this is kind of more of this is just a question for those who kind of think a certain way. Do you think that people who are in that community and say they're in that community, they say, you know what, how can Tim care about us when he comes from a rich background and he's never been through the things we've been through? What would you say to someone who says that?
I would say that they don't know me because just because my family moved me out of South Philly don't mean that the South Philly wasn't where we went. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? So if you think that my parents didn't have struggles, or if you think that um, just because my dad had money at one time, because it's well publicized that my dad didn't have money at a lot of the time as well.
Right.
So it's like this. This is and I'm gonna keep it real. I own a gym. You know, I did that all by myself. No help from my father. Um, I raised the money. I did it all really with just a pair of pads, focus mitts. I used to train people for free and just built it up that way. So when people see what I'm doing right now today, they wasn't with me when I had to go to people's living rooms and train them there, or when I said, yo, meet me at the park, or when I was driving, or when they would cancel on me and I needed the money. I'm a real American. I'm a real American dream. And don't forget, I did all this with an 11th grade education, you know. I went back to community college to get my GED, but I'm not no privileged kid by any means. I did it the hardest way. I go back to the school I dropped out, and I tell kids, do not do it my way. Um, and some of the reasons why I did it the way that I did it is because of the upbringing that I had. I didn't think that my parents would be able to afford to send me to college, so I didn't make college a priority. Sometimes my parents weren't home to help me with my homework, things like that. I just because you grow up in a certain area, like I said in the beginning, my parents were from South Philly. They brought South Philly to the suburbs. No lie, no doubt about that. So, so, um, me as an adult, I gotta reflect and I gotta think about, okay, this is a generational thing. What did my parents go through? You know what I mean? What were they taught? What was my grandfather and grandmother and my mom, who didn't have parents from a very young age? You know, what effect did that have on them that then they passed down on me? Um, so if someone says that I'm not privileged, there's a lot of generational chains that I'm sitting here right now and trying to break.
Well, let me ask you this, and this is a good question. Um, this is me speaking from being a father who's blessed to have his children in the suburbs. I grew up on the west side of Cleveland, which is not a nice place. There's nothing but a bunch of niggas and Puerto Ricans over there. So it's nothing good over there, man. But I ask you this, man. As a parent who's sending his child to these private schools, do you think the kids are aware of how hard it was for mom and dad to make that happen? This is you speaking to you as being that kid.
Me being that kid, I did not realize who my father was until I was a professional fighter myself. It was just a way of life.
Hmm.
Going to watch my dad in Atlantic City uh, was just something to do. Going to Madison Square Garden was just something to do. Going to Foxwoods, Connecticut, that was just what we did. And I didn't know any better. The aha moment that I had personally is when I had a fight in England, and it was my first time ever being over in England. We get off the plane in Manchester, and then we got to get on the train. As
Hmm.
soon as we get on the train, I'm off the airplane for about a half hour by the time we get to the train. This guy looks over at us on the train and says, "Yo, you're Tim Witherspoon, aren't you?" To my dad. And that right then and there is when I had my aha moment.
Hmm.
I said, "Whoa, hold on. My dad actually is known in another country as soon as we get on the train. What the I never found I
Hmm.
go around Philly all the time. We can't get to the next stoplight without my dad getting stopped, or I can't go to the store without, but it was normal until I had that awakening in England when we got to that train, and that random person just looked over a half hour into being in another country and saying, "Yo, aren't you Tim Witherspoon?" So no, I didn't realize. I feel like a lot of kids don't realize. I feel like a lot of kids have that aha moment when they get older. Now that I'm 40, I often think about uh, how what my parents were doing when they were 40 or when they were 30, uh, and I'm like, damn, man, my parents were crazy. But I also, that makes you reflect on again what kind of my mom and my dad met each other when they were teenagers, and my dad blew up. He ended up being within 5 years of starting boxing, ended up fighting Larry Holmes. So to have all that money at that young age, to then move to the suburbs and still be from South Philly, still trying to go back to the city and all that. Um, I look and I reflect on all that now, but how can you possibly be wise enough to know that when you're even 20,
Yeah, I think the thing that kind of stinks for those of us who are first generation is that for us the struggle is external. People peeing in the hallways. You get off the elevator, you can smell the adobo and tomato sauce. You smell the Spanish people, or you go down the hallway and you see people shooting craps in the stairwell.
Right.
But the thing I'm saying, when you being a second generation person, how would you say more people can how do you guys develop that internal intestinal fortitude to where you say, you know what, I want to make it even though I didn't have it as bad as daddy or as bad as mom? Because I think this, because one thing I will say is this, and I don't want to be too long-winded on this. I noticed that those of us who send our kids to these private schools were never rewarded with scholarships or rewarded with the kid excelling the way like we did. You know what I mean? And I guess for me, I just wonder like what is that as that second generation, the pressure's not there, huh? Is that what that is?
um no, but you know what, I'm second generation, but I'm also a fighter, and my dad was my trainer. So my discipline and is a little bit different than the average person. The reason why my dad let me start boxing is because, well, first, I learned how to run and do my road work because me and my little sister used to ride our bikes when my dad was running. And then my dad would go away to camp for long times. We'd be home, but he came home to visit from camp, and I'm doing my road work. I'm talking 7 years old.
Mm,
My neighborhood was safe enough where it was like a figure eight. So He said, "Yo, he took me back to camp with him, and then that's how my career started." And that work ethic, knowing that you have to get up, and for me, I didn't want to disappoint my dad when it came to boxing. So whenever he said, don't be around girls, or you got to get your rest, you got to eat this, I did it because I lived with him and I didn't want to hear his mouth. So when it's the truth, and I lived with him all the way up until I was 18, with that, and training every day. So with that kind of work ethic, with that kind of mentality, when it came to doing other things, it was a little bit easier. I'm like, yo, this is easier than boxing. You want me to go here and do an hour of training somebody and make $60? What? I'll do that for $20, $30 an hour. So when I compared other things to the lifestyle of being a boxer, to having to get up and work out 6 hours a day, my dad was making me work out 5 to 6 hours a day. Everything else was easier. Now I don't know about. I think it's down to the individual when it comes to if they want what they want in life. There's a saying in boxing that if you have silk sheets, you're not going to fight. You're not going to get up. You're not going to go running. If you already have it. And I think a little bit of that's true, but there are some people that just are stubborn. They want something so bad that they're not going to let anything get in their way. For me, I have this disorder that I call destination disorder. As soon as I get something done, I gotta go do the next thing. I can't stop. I don't. That's just built inside of me.
Go ahead, Doug.
So real quick, and I want to get to a little boxing and some of your career. Shout out to Coach Eddie in the chat right now. He just brought up that you and him fought on the same card in Columbus, Georgia. Me being a middle Georgia guy myself, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I want, and I believe I'm gonna say the brother name wrong, but I believe you fought Willoughby. Is that right?
I can't remember, man. I've been retired for 10 years now. That was probably 15 years ago.
It was in 2012. It was 2012. Yeah.
2012. Yeah, I can't. I know. Everyone always brings up that I fought Tevin Farmer and then I fought Dusty Harrison. I can remember the guy I fought in England 3 times. I can remember them, but them sprinkle fights in between, I can't remember.
Well, and like you just brought up, Tevin Farmer. What was it like sharing the ring with him? How did that fight play out? I wasn't there, so I can't tell you exactly what happened. But what was it like being in having that experience sharing the ring with Tevin Farmer?
So it was a great experience. He was a late replacement, like a couple of days before the fight. So I didn't really know much about him. I knew he was from Philly. His record wasn't all that great at the time. But we needed to fight. We wanted to fight, so we took it. And that night, you fight in Philly. I fought at the Armory where our fight was maybe 2 or 3 times before that fight. And it's like, you might get a big crowd, you might not, you know what I mean? This crowd was sold out. And me and Tevin just went to war. And, it was actually nominated for a Philly Fight of the Year that year. And it was a good experience. That's all I can say. I didn't come out victorious. I think at the time that fight probably wouldn't have been a fight that we would take if we would have did a little bit more research, because it was really early in my career. Me and Tevin, we're still friends today. People in Philly think that we don't like each other, but we always talk to each other behind the scenes. I'm proud of him because after he fought me, that was his turnaround. He never looked back, and then, to be from Philly, there's no animosity. I love all fighters. And to see him go as far as he goes, I'm proud of him. But I would like to take credit that I'm the one. Nobody knew who he was until we fought.
So, And I'm glad you brought that. What you just said. What you saying that y'all are still friends today, not having any animosity. Did you see his two fights with Williams Zepeda? Did you see those fights?
Yeah, and they were pretty close fights.
He won one. He won one of
Yeah,
them
he
at least.
won.
At least.
That first one,
I'm
he
just being
definitely
the
won that
first one. He
first
won
one.
the first
He
one.
definitely did.
Unfortunately for Tevin, man, he spent a lot of time on the shelf not being active.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that stuff that happens when the fight is like that, that's he's going into these fights, it looks like, with no support. It's just him fighting on will, and he's getting the job done, getting it close, but sometimes you need that little extra help. And that comes with the right promoters, the right management, right respect,
And I'm glad you just said that piece because I think earlier you brought up Witherspoon Events,
Yeah.
the new promotional company that you got coming up, or that you then got off the you done got up in the air. Let me put it that way. Do you have any fighters that you're currently working with, and any events looking to put on? Or once again, how can we support that as well?
Yeah, well, y'all, again, your platform is gonna help me sell tickets. When I get it fully, it is a legitimate LLC right now, Witherspoon Events. We are planning to have our first event August or September, around that time. I do have one professional fighter that I train. His name is Mike Titan Harris. We are 3-0 together. He got one knockout. And I'm looking to start promoting him. But my promotional company came about because I was going to fight on the Rampage Jackson Rashad Evans card in New Mexico, and that fell through. And that was the second time. And me fighting after 10 years, I know you heard that, but it wasn't going to be anything crazy. All right, so it was going to be a fight for somebody that hasn't fought in 10 years.
Right.
But since that fell through twice, me and a couple of investors came together, and we say, yo, we might as well just promote you ourselves here in Philly. So in August, I might be the first headliner. In the same situation, I'm not trying to get out there and fight no world champions or fight any young, hungry, up and coming guys. Um, I'm I'm in shape. I've been training. I was ready for that fight. And who better to kick off Witherspoon Events than me with the proper opponent? I don't want to pull no wool over anybody's eyes or anything like that. We keeping it real. But hopefully in August, me, Mike Harris, and a couple other guys from Philly, will be putting them on.
And, uh, and now, and it's interesting you brought that up because shout out to Greg Hackett. I don't know. I'm pretty
That's
sure.
my man. That's my
Yeah,
man.
I was gonna say I know. So shout out to G. When he came down to Atlanta, he fought against Senior Brian on the Senior. We pulled up and showed him love, and man, hey, a fantastic person that you can meet. You know what I'm saying?
That's my old sparring partner, man. That's my man.
He actually just won at 2300 last weekend. I was there. I got a bunch of video clips of him on the
He
channel.
won?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he won. He won. He
Oh.
boxed beautifully. I mean, he was having fun. He looked good. I had front row seats. It was amazing. We screened. He was the first fight. When I seen him come out, I was like, "Oh man, G fighting." You know what I mean? So 2300 put on some good fights, but yeah, he really put on a good performance. He was in his bag, hurt the guy a couple times, and he boxed to a beautiful decision. Shout out, Greg.
Hey, great body work by Greg as well. The
Yes, it
man was
was.
doing
Yes, it was.
fantastic body work.
Yes, it was.
But I just want to ask some of your relationships as far as with you being a Philly guy. G, Boots, Bozy.
Yeah.
Can you talk about some of those relationships that you have and how they influence you, how you them had an influence on them, and just with boxing because I ain't gonna say it, on YouTube it's a niche sport, but it ain't baseball, football, basketball always gonna get a few more eyes than what boxing does. So it's always a close knit group for those who are actually in the sport. Could you speak on some of those relationships that you have with those guys from Philly?
And Philly, when it comes to Philly, and it wouldn't be the next Philly fighter without the Philly fighter that came before him. Um, a lot of my skills, where I talked about growing up in the suburbs, there was no boxing gyms in the suburbs when I was growing up. We had to drive to the city every day. And that's when I got the real grit. I'm Tim Witherspoon Jr.'s son, so they don't give a fuck. I'm going in the gym and there's these older guys telling me I'm gonna beat your ass the fuck up, and talking like they from Philly. Come on, dickhead. But they doing it to build me up, to give me some toughness. And there's a lot of fighters that helped me along the way, like Nige Turpin. He passed away. Tobias Flowers passed away. And these are Philly legends. People in Philly would know them. And these are guys that when I was young and they were already pro or almost pro, were making me bleed, and they were the ones that really they gave me that tolerance to be a fighter, which would never happen. If I would have just stayed in my neighborhood, I'd be skateboarding. I might have picked up a guitar or something like that. You know what I mean? But driving down to the city in Philly every day, it gave me a different viewpoint that I wouldn't get anywhere else. The lessons that you get from Philly. Now, when you start to move, you start to get everybody. Danny Garcia was a big sparring partner of mine.
Shout out to Swift.
And along with that, I'm training along with Gabe Rosado. We training alongside with what's his name, Tank. Not Tank Davis, but Joey DeWaco. A lot of guys, and you also you got to remember that my dad was still fighting too. So a lot of them guys, when my dad was sparring with them, a lot of the old timers, they would come through. And then you got the people that come into the city. I remember, Shane Mosley coming in, William Joppy. Y'all remember William Joppy, Kasim Uma. You got people that come. So it's like,
yeah.
There's if you are a Philadelphia fighter or a Philadelphia enthusiast, there's no shortage on excitement. There's no shortage on education or opportunity. If you live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, you might be the best boxer in the whole state. But if you from Philadelphia, it's a good chance you only the best boxer on your block.
That's a fact.
That's the truth. And that's really where I also learned that in Philadelphia we don't have gyms, we got zoos, bro. A lot of people lose their careers in Philly, just in the gym alone. We go hard, and it builds character. So that's why you see these world champions, Jaron Ennis, like I said, Danny Garcia, even Julian Williams is another guy that I spar with a lot.
Shout out to J-Rock.
Yeah,
Shout out J-Rock.
Shout out to
Steve Cunningham's another big brother of
Yeah,
mine.
I love Cunningham, bro.
You
ever get a chance to spar with you remember that? I used to like when I was a young boy, I used to go to Blue Horizon, and I liked the Jamel Black Gold Wilson.
That's my old head, and yes,
that's my dude.
That's my man, Jamil Wilson.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
He used to put on in that Blue Horizon, bro.
I gotta ask this question, man. When and this is just and I gotta be honest, your dad is my favorite, because when we go down to Orwell, he would be down there training, and Orwell's like the middle of nowhere, and it would always be him and Uncle Carl. I guess when they would take a break, they would come by the city, and I used to think it was so cool. And it's so funny to rewind it now to be able to talk to him, talk to you, and talk to your son. I'll just ask you this: when you like you said, you heard about your dad when you went to London, being around your dad, do you ever feel like that's a tough act to follow? Because one thing about your dad, he's one of the funniest guys you can meet. Yeah. Have you ever found yourself saying, "Man, I gotta do better than my dad at this, so I gotta do better than my dad at that"? Because being such a presence? I always wondered that.
Not at all. Like I said, I'm number 4 of professional fighters in our family. So we our competition is not about ego at all. It's about who gets the last piece of chicken, some shit like that. Stuff like that. Um, there's no ego like that, and me and my son, we are happy enough to be named after him. That
Right.
is enough for us. The privilege that comes with that
Mm-hmm.
is what you should talk about.
Right.
Because there's not that many heavyweight champions out there, and the privilege of me being born to one and to be named after one is immense. And it's really truly a privilege. There's no competition. Each Tim has our own things that we're contributing to the world. So if we work together, we'd be like the best transformer there ever was. um, but unfortunately, um families have their dynamics. My dad's not always around. I'm busy all the time, and my son is finishing school, got his first girlfriend. So we're not all really all on the same page right now, but we all got our things to contribute. I think that we all know that, and we what we really do is represent the name Tim Witherspoon Jr. Well, or Tim Witherspoon. Sorry.
Before Dub go, I want to ask you this, man. How's your dad doing physically? I know he told us one time when he came through that he wasn't feeling the best, and
Yeah.
his sister does a lot of helping with him. You can always hear in the background when she
Right.
with cousin Bruce, man. So shout out to your
Yeah.
sister always taking care of the old man.
Yeah. He's been having some. He's 67, so he's been going to the doctors, and some of his problems are happening because he won't stop working out. They told him that he got to slow down. His blood is thinning a little bit, so I think he's listening. I talked to him, about a week ago, and he seemed to be okay. So when our parents get older, what can we do? And he took a lot of punches. He's not just a regular 67-year-old. He's a heavyweight champion of the world, 67-year-old.
Right.
But with that being said, too, though, he's still doing a lot better than a lot of these other guys I see. There's some guys my age that he's doing better than, and I know nothing against Larry Holmes, and Larry's a little bit older than my dad, but you see guys like him. I interviewed on my podcast about 20 of them guys. I interviewed Reddick. No, I didn't interview Reddick Bowe, but I was around him. You can barely hear him talk, unfortunately. Mitch Green, you can't hear him talk, unfortunately. I had Vinny Pazienza is okay. You got Mickey Ward. I interviewed him, and he has CTE. A lot of our warriors, they unfortunately are paying the price for our entertainment, and my dad is no exception. But with that being said, he's all right.
That's great, dear. Go ahead, Doug.
And we're just talking about your dad, and I know, like you said, he'll go to camp, But what's your most memorable fight that you watched your dad in? What was your most memorable performance of his?
Of my father's?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know there's so many of them, probably, but
yeah, I think it's a fight that I actually missed by like 10 minutes when he fought Jorge Luis Gonzalez in Madison Square Garden. And he knocked him out in like the 6th or 7th round. Now this is somebody who had trouble, who gave Reddick Bowe trouble and everything, but being in Madison Square Garden. Oh no, you know what? I got another one in Madison Square Garden when my dad beat Al Ice Cole. That was another great fight. I like that one because at the weigh-in, I got to be up in between them, and I made the New York Times that day. And the Al Cole was an up and coming light heavyweight, and my dad was, well seasoned. He could have been a journeyman at the time, and he pulled it through with a broken hand, and beat Al Cole. That was a great night, a great fight.
And like you just brought up, I know you were speaking on kind of how your father was, and like, hey man, I'm finna run and make sure I eat right, just so I don't have to hear him talk crazy to me. Which, hey, that's how I am as a father too. If you ain't doing the right thing, I'm gonna talk crazy to you. But just being in those, and I know even like you were saying, going overseas and seeing that, man, everybody know my father. Coming up around the legends and being around those guys. You know what I'm saying? Your father a legend in his own right.
Right.
What was that experience like? And how would you break it down as far as what it felt like as a kid to be around all those people and the legends and those type of things coming up?
So for me, it's not so much the people, but it's the atmosphere. You know, you know that you're going to go watch your dad fight, so you got to get new clothes. And then all of a sudden, there's a limousine coming to pick you up at the house to take you to wherever you're going, no matter how long it is. It could be a 7-hour ride. You in a limousine to the
You in
spot.
the stretch, huh? You got plenty of leg room.
Yeah, exactly. And all paid for. Then you get to the best hotels. I'm talking about we're staying in Caesar's Palace in the penthouse, or Taj Mahal, or the Mohegan Sun, or whatever place in New York. Eating the best food, and it's all free. And then you go in and you're seeing the lights and the cameras. And as a kid, going through that, it's like you're just going, it's normal. You know what I mean? It's normal. I now, as an adult, I get more excited. I'm like, oh man, I can't believe out of all the people they chose me to interview Mickey Ward. You know what I mean? Or I can't believe that, I'm sitting right in front of Paulie Malignaggi right now as an adult. But when I was younger, I remember seeing Paulie Malignaggi in Madison Square Garden warming up and not even caring. you know, or seeing the Klitschko brothers in their dressing room, and I didn't even care when I was a kid. But I know right now, if I had that situation right now, I'd be like, what the? But I took it for granted as a kid because we don't know any better, But now in this day and age, I get a little fan struck. And I'm kind of mad that my sister Shania, that you mentioned, gets to hang out with Mike Tyson all the time.
Hey man, me and Mike Tyson, my favorite fighter of all time. We got the same birthday, and if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't love boxing. When I was a kid coming up, hey, the Tyson fight part that's like the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the Super Bowl. So I get to stay up late. I'm jumping around, and this is as a kid. So shout out to Tyson. But uh, I want to ask this. I know you got a podcast now. I believe is it Mo Boxing?
So I got a couple of podcasts. I got my uh, personal podcast called Young Black Suburban.
Okay, Young
Um,
Black.
that's where you'll find me interviewing a lot of fighters. You'll find me interviewing a lot of business people, a lot of comedians, actors, uh, people in the community. You'll find me doing that. Then I have my Sunday boxing podcast. That's where I do my research and my recaps, and we talk about the boxing that happens. That's me and Skywalker. That's the Tim and Tim show.
Shout out to, hey, if it wasn't for Skywalker, he was the one. He was like, hey man, can you go up to Atlanta and cover this fight for me? Shout out to my brother Skywalker, man. I
Right,
think
right.
that's what we talked the first time, me and you, over at Skywalker show. Shout out to
Okay,
him.
exactly,
Shout out to
exactly.
Skywalker, man. That's my favorite white Mexican, man. Shout out to Skywalker.
Yeah, that's the man. That's the man. So we do our show every Sunday. We've been doing that for about 3 years now.
Yeah.
And
Good
then
brother, really good person.
yeah, for sure. Then I do work for Mo Boxing, Mo Problem, no problems. They got me going down to the OTX show. I think June 13th. And I just do stuff for them. I interview fighters. I know a lot of them, so it's a little bit easier for me um, to go down there. So yeah, those are three of my podcast, my streaming things. And we do have Witherspoon boxing on YouTube too, where we put our shorts. You'll see some things from the gym on there. Yeah.
And you can sit on the BVO Sports TV, man. You ain't gotta keep them all for yourself. You ain't gotta keep them all
I
for
mean,
yourself.
we can figure something out, man.
Hey, but I just want to say this, man. I love you, man, and I appreciate you getting back to me, man. You're a wonderful dude. Can't wait to have you back, man. I know Dub got something to ask you, but we really appreciate you, man. 'Cause one thing I didn't know, man, I didn't know how much you had a heart for your community. It's something to be admired, bro. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. And let me just drop a little gem for you guys too. If you're gonna start a business or anything that has to do with retail or anything that has to do with transactions, you have to take care of your community with that. Because if you take care of your community, they're gonna take care of your business. People support people that they like and that support them. And that's an important thing to learn when you go into business. You can't be for yourself because the energy you put out is what you get back, basically. We all know that rule, and it's true.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dub. I know you have something for him.
No, I've been talked all night.
I got one more question. How can we, since I'm registered to vote in Pennsylvania, how can I vote and make sure you get, like, every vote counts to make sure you get where you need to go?
Unfortunately, you can only vote for me if you are in my township. That's Bristol.
It goes like that? You in Bristol?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny right there. Okay.
Let me hold
cool,
Tim out, Tim.
Shout out Bristol.
Yo, hey, look, and people, we mentioned earlier about people saying that I'm privileged and all that, and I always say, like, I'm one day away from working a 9 to 5 myself. So don't let social media fake people out or make you think that somebody's doing way better than they are, because we all are just one day away from working 9 to 5s.
And you know what? One thing I will say is, and I forgot to bring this up, man. I gotta ask you this before you go, and this is our last because I promise.
No, you good.
There's a young man in Cincinnati, man. He lost his son, unfortunately, and to see his face as he's in the courtroom, man. I'll be honest with you, man. I broke down and cried because I felt like I've never seen somebody look so lonely, and they technically did the right thing. What would be your words of encouragement to that young man as he's going through this case?
First, let me say that, I fought in Cincinnati twice, and, that's a good city. I know they got their issues like every city. But, I appreciate being there for what they did for me. Now, when it comes to, losing a loved one or going through certain things, my belief is spiritual first. And it's hard for me to talk about these things because they already have their beliefs. They already have your installations, but I can only tell you what I believe. And unfortunately, some people have to go so we can all learn a lesson as humans. We're no different than animals in some ways, where sometimes some people of the herd have to be sacrificed. And I hate to say it like that, but
You cold, Tim.
I hate to say it.
You ice cold, baby.
but it's for the greater cause of humanity, because what's going to come out of the situation, hopefully, is justice, and hopefully things will change through that person having to go through this. Hopefully there's some lessons that will come from this. Now, lessons will come from this either way, but the justice part, hopefully this kid won't die in vain. And that's where we're at now, because the Lord already called him home. And there's nothing we can do about it. It was his time. You know, I fully believe that you can't go before it's your time, and now we have to hope that the sacrifice that was made is not in vain.
Yeah, I think that's well said, man. Us as fathers, we have to agree with that. But you know, the toughest thing, man, it's just when you see other fathers trying, and you just say, you know what, man, it's tough being daddy, man. But
Oh
it's
yeah.
your boxing, man. We in the house, man. They said we couldn't do it. We bought my brother Tim in the house, man. We got my brother from Middle Georgia, Varnell Hill, man. You know, and of course, man, we got my man, Manager Calvin, aka
Crazy.
my man Prize, man. We got him in
That's
the house.
crazy.
And shout out to Free. I think Free had to go sweep up or something. He's Puerto Rican, so he probably had
That's
to go
crazy.
take us.
That's
So shout out
crazy.
to Free somewhere, probably sweeping the bodega up. But we'll be back. You coming on tonight, Dub?
I'll let you know in a few.
Okay. I don't know what Dub's doing, but
His
we
mic.
back. Make sure you check out the Tim and Tim podcast on Sundays, and we got somebody super special. One of my favorite big head brothers in the world is gonna be here tomorrow. You don't want to miss it. You don't want to miss it. And we out of here, y'all. Peace.
Peace.
Please, appreciate you, champ.
I appreciate
you,
you
champ.
guys.
Appreciate you, Tim.
You too.
Take care, man.